Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host Miss KK and this is The Wave. It is your weekly show that looks at topics related to personal, family and business finances, and our hope is that by the time we get to the end of the series, you are really better equipped to make sound financial decisions. If you're new, thank you, and if you're a returning subscriber, an awesome appreciation for always coming by to actually check what we have and always also sharing the videos with your friends and family, as that helps us grow this amazing community. Today we are talking about a credit report. We are going to be discussing what exactly it is, where you get one from, how it affects your day-to-day decision, what can you do to improve your credit report information, and we're going to link a credit report to a credit score, and we are also going to just give a basic understanding of where you can get one free credit report in Namibia. All right. So a credit report really is just a history of how well you've been able to use your credit in future. So in any given economy, there are rules that regulate how lenders are supposed to be giving money to consumer, and one of them is the National Credit Act, and the other key industry player in this credit report type of space is what we call credit bureaus, or what we call credit company. So lenders, which is your bank, your cash loans, your insurance company, when they are giving products to you, when you apply for it, they are required to submit that information to this credit bureaus or these credit companies, and the credit bureaus actually keep a database of all customers that have taken out debt, and on a monthly basis, these lenders, your bank, your insurance company, your micro lenders, do submit information about payment profiles of individuals. So how is Klesina keeping up with her monthly installment? Did she default on her monthly installment? So the banks, the insurance company, the micro lenders would feed that information to the credit bureau, and the credit bureau will use that information to generate what is known as a credit report, which is what we are talking about today. And why is it important? The credit report is important because it informs any other future lender that wants to give you money, and it basically tells them in a nutshell whether you are someone that is worthy to lend money to, and whether they must increase the price that they are actually charging you, or the interest rate that they're actually charging you, because you are high risk. So basically, if I were to go to Old Mutual today and I say, listen, I want to take out an insurance product, Old Mutual will run their health background checks to actually make sure that I qualify for the insurance product. But on top of that, because it's going to require me to make a monthly installment in order for them to actually cover me, they also need to know how is my payment history. So they will call the credit bureau, or actually fill in an application form in the credit bureau. The credit bureau will actually pull up my credit report, and it will send it to them, and whatever information is there would actually inform Old Mutual to determine whether I'm actually someone worthy for them to actually sell the insurance product to them. So that it's important because it actually enable the lender to know whether, number one, they can actually offer you the loan that you're looking for. Number two, at what price are they charging you? Because if you are low risk, they'll give you a good interest rate, and if you're high risk, they probably need to compensate themselves for the risk they're taking on you, and they'll charge you a slightly higher interest rate. So that's why credit reports are important. Then I'm sure you guys have all seen people talking about how is your credit score, what is a good credit score, etc. So your credit report would have generally information as summarized by the credit bureau, but it won't have your credit score. So what typically would happen, like I've mentioned, I would go to Old Mutual, I want an insurance product. Old Mutual will then send an application form to a credit bureau, and in Namibia, the most popular one is TransUnion Namibia. So they will send it to TransUnion Namibia, and TransUnion Namibia will send them back my credit report. Then they will use that information and put it in their systems, and their system would say, because Klesina had one default on a loan, she has no judgment issued against her name, she has never defaulted, or she was never put on a blacklist by any company, she is actually a good paying customer. Then they enter that into their system, and their system will spit out what is called your credit score. So your credit score would not be readily available on your credit report, but the information that is on your credit report is what actually informs your credit score. So personally, I don't know what my credit score is, because at the time when I was applying for a loan, I didn't have any knowledge of credit reports and credit score things, and at that time I didn't have any other debt that I've previously taken, so I don't know what my credit score is. But next time I actually apply for loan, now I know better. I can actually say, may I please look at the credit score that you've calculated, so that I can actually inform myself based on what I have on my credit report, it's consistent with the score that I'm getting. So personally, I don't pay too much attention to the credit score, because the credit score is statistically calculated and you don't have a control over that. What you have a control is things that filter through your credit report that then goes and inform your credit score. So now let's look at the content of your credit report and how to understand it. So sometimes last week I then went on the TransUnion Namibia, which is one of the credit bureaus in Namibia that actually gives free credit report. On their website they have detailed instruction on how to access your credit report, but it's pretty simple. So you go to their website, then you text your email address to a certain number, and then they will respond to you using that email address that you've given them in the text, sending you an application form. It's normally just a one-pager where you fill in your personal information and a few other information. You sign, you attach a copy of your ID, and then you send it back to them. And then I actually got a response within less than 3 hours or so, and they send me back my credit report. It should be pretty easy to do because they're not compiling your credit report as you send it. They're actually pulling based on the information that's already on the database. So the first section, it has a few sections, and the first section, which is section A, deals with your personal information, and this personal information is compiled from the information that is on the system when you last applied for credit. So like in my case, like I've mentioned, if I go to Old Mutual and I want an insurance product, Old Mutual will say, please fill in this application form. I will put in my name, my email address, my residential address, etc. So that information will filter through the credit report. So what you're supposed to do with it is you're supposed to assess that information for accuracy. Do they have the correct name? Perhaps you've gotten married and you want to update your surname. Do they have your correct email address? Do they have your correct residential address? So I have looked at mine, and I've actually noted that the email that's there is gomacha@outlook.com, but that's not my email address. So I need to go back to them and say, thank you very much for your credit report. I really appreciate. However, please update my email address to this email address. So that's the one thing that I've actually noted is inaccurate on my credit report. Then you have your address information. This is now your residential address and your postal address, and my credit report is up to date. It has the last 3 residential address I've lifted. My current address in Windhoek and the last 2 address in Walvis Bay, so I don't have to update anything there. Then it has my employment information. So the employment information, it will just have histories of who were your employer. Normally, because you do this, they get this information every time you apply for credit, and lenders would always want to know that you have a salary for you to be able to commit to whatever debt that they're giving you. We generally tend to give accurate information about our employment. So when I look at my credit report, it shows that I was at University of Namibia as a student in 2013, which actually makes no sense because I didn't go to UNAM and I went to university in 2011, so it was quite surprising to see here. So this is also one thing I need them to update, because I never worked for UNAM and I never was there as a student, so I need them to actually update this. So essentially you should get this and you should let them know when there's a discrepancy. So that is your employment information. That is basically section A. It's really just informative, and you're supposed to be checking the accuracy of that information. Let's now move on to section B, and section B is where you want to be focusing on, and this is where you want to be sort of improving behaviors to make sure that you don't do anything that is likely to appear up in this section. So we are talking about defaults, we are talking about judgments, we are talking about notices, we are talking about notarial bonds, and we are also talking about inquiries as well as trace alerts. Okay, so what is a default? A default is if you don't pay your account or you pay your account late. This would involve whether you are handed over to lawyers or you really just default, and then the client's department is been following up with you, and that information, to the extent that it's actually reported by the lender to the credit bureau, it's likely to appear on your default section. And if it's there, it's going to stay there for 2 years. So for 2 years post you may be settling that debt, it's actually going to be there, or for 2 years when you have written off that debt, it's likely to be there. Then you have judgments. So judgments is if you fall behind with your accounts and fail to respond to reminder letters from credit or service provider, they may apply for a judgment. So a judgment is basically granted when a court gives you the instruction to pay your outstanding account. So if you receive a lawyer's letter in your box saying that you owe company A this amount of money, and you ignore that letter, and the court issues a judgment that you must pay that loan, that judgment will stay on your credit report for 5 years. Meaning every time you go apply for funding for the next 5 years, that thing is likely to be there, and anyone can say, I don't know if we should be giving money to Christina because she had a loan before and she was issued a judgment. So those are some of the things that you really need to be paying attention to. So don't ignore lawyers' letters coming to you, because it is likely to cost you a lot. So moving on, the third thing that is also appearing on your credit report is what we called notices. Notices again also deals with failure to pay your outstanding account, and a service provider takes legal action against you in form of a notice against you. My lawyer's friend will be able to understand, technically differentiate the difference between a notice and a judgment. I'm not going to try and explain it in layman's terms, because I actually don't know how to put it in layman's terms. But if a notice is issued against your name, it will stay on your credit report for 10 years. So guys, things can get very severe if lawyers are involved. If you look at a judgment for 5 years and a notice, we are saying 10 years, it can really hinder your growth financially, and it can make it expensive for you financially if you are not adhering to these things. And notarial bond is similar to a mortgage bond, but mortgage bond, if you buy a house with a bank and the bank has a mortgage bond, the bank registers a mortgage bond over your property. The only difference is that mortgage are immovable property, whereas notarial bonds are movable property. But the mortgage and notarial bond don't have a negative impact on your credit score, but it reflects there. It actually is important for it to be noted in your credit report, so that the bank can be aware, any other lender can be aware that Christina already has debt with another company, and another company has a notarial bond or has a mortgage bond over a particular asset. In another benefit for having it here is so that the lenders don't end up, securing multiple loan against one asset, and then when you default, one person is actually going to end up losing. So that's why it's important for notarial bonds and mortgage bonds to actually be noted on things such as these. And then trace alert. Trace alert is actually something that is similar to what MTC is doing. So currently, when you try to call someone at MTC and they are off, when they come back online, it notifies to say the subscriber you have tried to dial is now available. So a trace alert is that you've gone out and taken loan, and you've maybe changed contact details, or you've given fake information, for example. So someone can put a trace alert on your name to say that anytime a new contact information is available for Christina, please notify me. So in essence, you're sort of trying to hide away from your lenders. So sometimes it is deliberate, sometimes it's actually not deliberate. Maybe you really just lost your other number, but you should actually know who you owe, so you should be giving your lenders actually updated information. So if a trace alert is actually put against your name, that also actually reflects up on your credit report, because people are going to say maybe you will try and run away after you've actually gotten money from them. So these are some of the things that are actually noted on your credit report, and you must avoid any of the things that will pop up on a report, such as any of this category, except notarial bonds, because notarial bonds are just there for information, they don't drag you down. And lastly, we have inquiries. Inquiries is every time someone requests a credit report from the credit bureau, it also comes there, so that anyone else that takes it can see how frequently are you out there looking for debt. The more inquiries are on your account, it tells the other people that maybe Christina is taking on too much debt, or maybe Christina is not really good at managing her money because she's constantly out in need of financing. So if I can now take these things and actually apply on my credit report. So I got my credit report and I looked at the information about adverse details. So that is now under the section that's called adverse details. So it says judgment, no information exists for the subject. Default, no information exists. Notices, no information exists. And so basically, I don't have any judgment, I don't have any defaults, I don't have any notices, I don't have any trace alerts, I don't have any payment profile. So the one thing that I didn't discuss is around payment profile. Payment profile is supposed to actually give a summary of accounts, including the date the account was opened, the credit limit on that account, the payment term, the outstanding balance, as well as the 24 depiction on how the pay account would look. But the problem is, though, I have a home loan, but I don't have a payment profile section on my credit report. So I need to go back to the actually first I need to do some detailed research whether a home loan is supposed to appear there, but I need to go back to the credit bureau and ask them why is my home loan actually not reflecting, because that is something I need them to reflect, because it's the one thing that is giving them that is going to give anyone that's going to give me loan in future to actually see that I've been able to pay my account up to date. So basically I have zero payment profile, which is currently not accurate, so I need to go back to them. And then we have inquiries. Inquiries is every time someone actually looks for you, like I've mentioned, every time someone looks for a credit report, it's reflected here. I have 3 inquiries under my name over the last 24 months, and the reason why inquiries are put there, you need to look out for identity theft. If you look at people that have inquired your credit report, number one, you need to see if you have given them authorization. And if you haven't given authorization to them, you need to ask why, because it could be indicative of an identity theft. I'm gonna give an example here. And a cousin of mine was going to apply for a home loan, and she went to the bank, and the bank said, we can't give you a loan because you are blacklisted. And she was quite surprised because she had done nothing that would get her blacklisted. And then she drilled down into the story, and it came down that actually her ID was used to open an Avon account, and that person that opened the Avon account in her name didn't pay the Avon account, and in the end my cousin was blacklisted because of that. So it took her some time to try and clear that incident of her name. But if you look at your credit report in time and you look at the inquiry section, you would think to yourself, why is Avon inquiring my credit report when I in fact don't have anything to do with Avon? So if she had looked at her credit report, it would have given her critical information that would allow her to clear her name in time for her to actually to be cleared before she goes out and apply for loan. Unlike, imagine if the houses were, if you know the seller was in a rush and doesn't have the time to wait for you while you're clearing your ITC issues, you would have actually lost out on a potential acquisition. So I'm just saying, focus on the inquiries and see if anything actually looks funny and take it up with the credit bureau. So if I look at my inquiries, I have 3 inquiries in the last 24 months. And the one is in 2021, and that is by Old Mutual Short-Term Insurance. I think this is when I took out my iPhone insurance contract with Old Mutual, so they did get my credit report. And then I also have one from Nedbank. I bought a house with the Nedbank home loan financing division. They also did an inquiry on my credit report, so that wasn't surprising. And lastly, I also have another Old Mutual insurance inquiry. My insurance products are with Old Mutual, so it actually makes sense that these things are there and I expect them to be there. So you now need to go and try and get your credit report. It is free. And then post, if you do get your credit report and you want a consultation with a consultant from TransUnion Namibia to explain it to you, I think the fee is about $80 that you pay, and then they'll set up a consultation and explain it to you. So do go out and get your credit report. So even when you ask for your own credit report, your inquiry would be part of the history of the inquiry. But because this inquiry that I made for myself is the first time, so the next time I actually get my credit report, let's say next year when I want to get my credit report, there will be my inquiry would also be listed here. But it's worth noting that your own inquiry does not count anything negative towards your credit score. So they actually said when you personally check your credit report with TransUnion, the inquiry is recorded, but it will not have adversely affect your credit standing. So don't be shy to say that I can't go and apply and ask for my annual credit report because it will increase the number of chances and it will look like I'm in need of, credit all the time. The lenders would know it was a self-requisition and it's just you to check your credit standing. That being said, so what can you do to now improve your credit report information that will ultimately filter in your credit score? Number one, avoid defaulting on your payments, avoid judgments being issued, avoid notices being issued, avoid trace alert. If you are going to be giving information to your lender, make sure that you are using the correct information. And in an event that you actually do change your number, please inform your lenders that you've changed contact numbers so that they don't put trace alert on your name. That's all I had from today's discussion. All I wanted to is highlight what is a credit report and where you can access your free credit report, and some of the basic understanding of how to interpret the credit report. So until next time, it is goodbye, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video if this is the content that interests you. Until next time, it is goodbye, and please